The first item is to have an item presented to us with the annual update on Truist Park and the Battery, and I believe we'll also be touching based on the Major League Baseball game that we are planning at the towards the summer. So with that, Bill, if you can help kick off today's presentation, that'd be great. And do we have representation from the Braves here with us today?
Yes,
oh,
ma'am.
okay, good to see you.
Okay. All right, thank you, Chairwoman, Commissioners. Good afternoon. We just want to give you the 2020 year-end update for the Braves and the Atlanta Battery. So there's Truist Park as of today, and just remember we went through the name change from SunTrust to Truist Park. I want to touch on a few slides real quick just to give you some background information. When we did these original projections, this was the split. The county's portion of the $300 million was capped, and the Braves portion for construction was set at $372, but it was not capped. So anything above and beyond $372 was on the Braves. And then as we started this process back in 2013, we had our initial projections of what we believed the cost was going to be to cover the annual debt service. The number that I really want to call to your attention is the reallocation of existing revenues. This would be general fund tax dollars, and originally it was projected at $8.67 million. As we went through this process, we were able to improve our rates on our borrowing, and we were able to finalize the deal at $6.4 million is what we projected. Again, this is just simply for debt service, and I want to show you kind of where we are today. But with that being in mind, I want you to take a look at this. As we're saying, $6.4 million, that is before we talk about the stadium capital maintenance contribution that the county makes of over $1.2 million, the circulator fee that we also contribute towards about $800,000, and the PD overtime of additional about $900,000 on a normal year. So this was just debt service. So again, as we get to the actual numbers, you're going to see that we are far below the $6.4 million, including all of those other costs as well. So we'll just move on real quick. I want to give you some history here as well. If y'all remember, this was a vacant piece of land valued at $5 million in 2014. As of the end of the last assessment in 2020, it is now valued at $587 million. This is just the battery. This is not the halo effect. This is just simply the battery. The battery itself, property values increased by over $35 million just from 2019 to 2020. But inception to date through 2015 through this past calendar or past fiscal year, the Braves have paid into the county $10.7 million, and they've also paid into the Board of Education $14.8 million over that period of time. So just a reminder that the Board of Education had zero investment in this, so they are seeing a huge benefit. And one of the things that we also look at is that the impact to the Board of Education with not having school-age children in the battery and small families, there's really not an increased cost. So this is something that is really impacting the entire county, from the county-wide services as well as the Board of Education's positive return on investments. Okay, so one of the areas that we haven't typically touched on, and this is something that we really kind of probably dropped the ball in the last couple of years, is to really talk about one of the other partners in this, is the Cumberland CID. So obviously we've talked about the special service districts and how they've been impacted, but one of the areas that we've neglected to mention in the past is that the Braves have also paid in $3.9 million to the Cumberland CID since 2015, and this is all going back to be invested in the Cumberland CID for infrastructure. And you can see kind of what their gross digest has done. I do want to point out one thing as you kind of move through that chart. You'll see positive increases until you get to 2019. There's a little blip on the radar, and this was a non-reval year for commercial properties within the CID. And we have had several properties that were being constructed for apartments, and those are not eligible to be on the digest of the CID. So they could have a piece of land that is commercial in nature, and as soon as it is green lighted for apartment complex or something like that, it comes off the CID digest. So that's what you see there is the little blip on the radar. We had several properties that would have been on the digest, but that are now being developed as multi-family apartment complexes. Those come off the digest for the CID in 2019. And then in 2020, we had our big commercial reval year for commercial properties in the CID. And you can see that's up almost 11.5%. Chairwoman, question?
Yes, sir. When you stated green lighted, are you talking about from a land use designation perspective, or when there's an actual building permit issued for?
I believe it's the
residential?
permitting.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
thank you.
Okay. All right, and I apologize, this is maybe a little hard to see for those of you in the back, but this is something we'll have on the county's website, and we'll get to communications for today so that if you want a copy, or definitely want to share that with everybody. So we kind of have some histories from 2015 through 2020. One of the areas I want to point out, though, is this is the Cumberland Special Service District $3 room night, property taxes for the Special Service District, rental car, and hotel motel. All in, for these years, you're looking at $72+ million that has gone back to the county as revenues. And all these are used to support the stadium debt service. So one of the areas that you'll note is if you look at 2020, obviously nobody knew a pandemic was coming. We had no fans in stands, and obviously hotels were very hard hit by the pandemic. You can see those numbers are down dramatically. I want you to keep those in mind as we move through the slides, because we were able to hold the general fund's impact from 2019, where it was in 2019, to 2020 and not have a negative impact despite the pandemic. And we're also going to be able to do that through 2021 without having a negative or adverse impact on the general fund as well. So, and that's primarily because of the Cumberland Special Service District 2 property tax increases that we have seen through the digest growth and some of the other revenues. So just wanted to call that to your attention as we move through these. A few other revenues that we collect is sales tax. Obviously, that flows into our SPLOST fund, liquor by the drink, occupancy tax. But this just gives you a little bit unique breakdown of kind of the county's portion of those revenues over this 3-year period, the Board of Education's portion, as well as the state's portion, and then the total. So over a 3-year period, the county has received over $10+ million, Board of Education $5.7 million, and the state over $24.2 million for an all-in total over a 3-year period over $40 million. Okay, this is the slide that's probably the most telling. This is we'll walk through all the expenses that are included in this, but you can see where we were at the peak. The $8.2 million is the all-in. That's how much the general fund had to kick in at the peak of this in 2017, but that includes stadium debt service, capital maintenance, PD overtime, circulator, the whole nine, and that's what it continues to be as we move through these. You can see the downward slide in this trend. Back in 2019, the board made it a priority to use some of the Cumberland Special Service District 1 funds to be a good partner with Cobb Travel and Tourism. That actually slowed this number a little bit. It would have been even lower. And we've continued that practice into 2020 as we move forward. So, for example, in 2020, we gave over $900,000 to the Cobb Travel and Tourism. So that just gives you an idea where those numbers shake out had we continued in that practice. But I know that was the board's priority to be partners with Cobb Travel and Tourism to help promote travel and tourism throughout the area. Okay, so here's the more detailed, broken down version of this. You can see what the debt service is, and like I talked about, the stadium capital maintenance, public safety, pedestrian, and insurance. One thing to note, because we didn't have fans last year at games, the public safety line item is only $4,000. It's typically $9,000. So that gives you there is a trade-off of not having fans. You do have that savings because you didn't have fans down at the Battery versus when we'd normally have a full season. But on the other side, you also lost a lot of revenue as a result of that. So the all-in cost for 20 was $24+ million, of which the Braves paid almost $8.7 million of that through their required annual contributions and their property taxes paid to the general fund and the Special Service District. And this is just the Battery. This is not halo effect. This is simply Braves only. So with that being said, the county was responsible for the remaining $15.4 million, and you can see how that breaks down. General fund was $4.5 million of that. Absolutely.
Thank you.
And again, please keep in mind when we did this initial projections, we only talked debt service. This gives you the full picture and full cost of what we contribute and what the cost is to the county each and every year, as well as what the Braves contribute. Very good. Thank you. Okay. So we've talked about how we pay the annual costs. These are positive impacts that have come out of this partnership that are not eligible for the debt service or the stadium capital maintenance or any expenditures related to the stadium. The fire fund received over $600,000, debt service $30,000, business license, and so on. So additional revenue to the county was just under $1.9 million. These are revenues that are going to other purposes. And the biggest one that I want to call to your attention is the SPOS numbers. Without ticket sales, it was down dramatically, but with that, the county still had one of the highest SPOS it's had, collection rate had in several years. So this number is typically a little bit higher as we have ticket sales that are obviously have SPOS associated with those. Okay, and with that being said, we also have the Board of Education, again, receiving additional benefits through SPOS collections as well as property taxes. So they received over almost $5 million in 2020 through this Braves and through the Battery area. And then obviously the state, $2.2 million, but an all-in additional benefits of over $9 million of revenues. So again, these are not being used to fund the debt service or any costs associated with the Battery. Okay, and at this point, I'm going to ask Mike Quant to come up, and he's going to address some of these areas of public partnership. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. Chairwoman Cubic, could I make a quick comment to follow up on what Bill mentioned here? You know, I think when we look back at 2013, our collective public-private partnership always was focused on the mixed-use development. This was never about building a professional ballpark as a standalone facility. And, you know, recently there's been more focus and attention on that. I know I've said over 100 times on behalf of our organization, those don't pencil out, you know, most of the time. And, you know, this has been now about $1.1 billion in private investment into the Battery. And we've always known, and I believe the leadership here has known, that's what was going to make financial sense. And as Bill continues to, on an annual basis, show and prove out, the fiscal impact is continuing to grow. We have another $300 million that's coming online this summer with phase 2. And, you know, no one really focuses too much on the halo effect, but the Cumberland area has continued to grow with obviously development going vertical and thousands of new jobs, and we believe that the Battery's been a big catalyst for that. So we believe the future looks pretty bright, and that's going to continue to produce great revenues for the county. I'd also just want to say, look, we continue to be incredibly appreciative and grateful for the support we get from the county and the leadership and Cobb PD. There's no one else better in the country, we believe, and that also helps make all of this work. So we're grateful for that to all of you too. So just a little bit on Braves Care. You know, it's through our Braves Foundation, trying to continue to be good stewards of utilizing our resources in order to have a positive impact on the community. This is just what focuses on our giving and contributions to Cobb. You know, we continue to look at Metro Atlanta, the state of Georgia, and Braves country as a whole. So I'm not going to read all these, but these are a few of the programs that obviously are growing the game-based, educational-based, and continuing to provide families and kids an opportunity to be recipients of our resources. So the list on Braves Care is, like I said, it's pretty extensive. There's another slide, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
You got it.
The right one?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
There you go. Last one.
And oops. And then we had, again, growing the game, county championships last year, 176 teams played in Cobb, had some pretty good economic impact as well, utilized the hotels, and that was obviously a little more challenging in 2020 than when it's been in the past, but those programs will continue to grow. One program that's not up there is because of the pandemic, we were able to utilize our facility and our resources. I think we're up over 2 million meals now. I know a number of you have seen our operation that we were doing at Truist Park to provide meals to families that were in need based on the pandemic and loss of jobs and a whole bunch of other sad reasons. So, and our commitment to that program is continuing into 2021 as well. And then just a couple things moving forward. 2020, we still, even through the pandemic, opened a number of new tenants. The tower has now topped out at 420 feet. We opened the new Aloft Hotel, which is doing actually extremely well right now. And we were able to announce moving Papa John's from Louisville, their headquarters from Louisville, Kentucky, to Cobb County here in our new 3-ballpark center office. And then looking forward, we have a number of new tenants that will be opening this year, moving ThyssenKrupp and Papa John's. The total employee population is about 1,200 into 3-ballpark center. We have obviously the All-Star game and a global event. We believe it's the first probably global event that'll take place in North America that will have full capacity crowds. So that's obviously will bring the attention of the world onto Cobb County. And then finally, the Silver Spot Theater. It's been sitting there for 6 months, ready for Hollywood to provide some movies, and that should happen in mid-May. And I didn't put that last bullet on there, but I sure hope that that happens as well. So I think that's it, right, Bill?
Yes.
Any questions I can answer?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate the presentation. I believe, were we going to have an overview of what's going on with the MLB game?
Is that next on the slides?
No, no slides.
No.
Okay.
So you're obviously all aware of the All-Star game that's taking place in July at Truist Park and the Battery and the surrounding area. As I just said, we believe it's probably the first global event that will take place in North America after the pandemic. There'll be over 160 countries that will broadcast the Monday night home run derby. I'm sorry, I should go back. It's a Sunday, the day, 2 events during the day are the Futures game and the Celebrity game, and then that night will be the first round of the Major League Baseball Players Draft. And so those are all televised events. Monday is the home run derby, which then kicks off the global television audience over 160 countries around the world. And then Tuesday is obviously the All-Star game, same thing, 160 countries. I think there's 2,000, a minimum of 2,000 media representatives from a global journalist from all over the world. Obviously, we're building out an extensive compound. The events start at the Galleria, which we're grateful for the support again from the county and travel and tourism. Play ball is an event for families. They will come from, obviously, we believe, all over the Southeast. There'll be in excess of over 100,000 people over a 5-day period. That'll start that Friday prior. We're putting together a concert series at the Roxy and looking at some other places also around Cobb. Hotels, I think it's even difficult now to get a hotel room. So the impact, and again, there was some information I believe that got provided to you. Economic impact over the last 20 games ranges from $30 million up north of $100 million. And that was information that was provided to us from MLB. I can't tell you the methodology that was all used. They have their methodology, but we're pretty confident that there will be a huge global impact here again on Cobb and a pretty good return, not only directly but indirectly in the focus of people are going to see what we've experienced here with the incredible place that Cobb County is. So feel pretty good about the overall event coming here, and we're prepared. We were, I don't want to say a little behind, but because of the pandemic, obviously the event got canceled in Los Angeles last year, so planning got a little escalated, but I think everyone, including Cobb PD and everyone from public safety we're dealing with, are feeling a lot better, and Jackie would echo that as well with the collaboration we have now going with MLB.
Okay, thank you. I know we had some discussion yesterday regarding the expenditure the county will make to help ensure that we have a safe event.
Yes.
And there was some discussion about the economic impact and what would be accommodated in the county if we were to continue to have a similar pandemic scenario we have that I believe it was shared about a third of the seating. Even if a third of the seating was available and we had a less turnout, that we still would expect to see a significant economic return based off of the activity to book rooms and to facilitate the various events that will be here.
Correct.
Yeah.
And again, we're all keeping our fingers crossed and saying our prayers, but we think that we're going to open with 30%, and we're hoping by May we're at 50%, and you know, notwithstanding restrictions and stepping backwards, that we're at 100% capacity with our games in June. Most of this audience comes from places far and wide, including globally, so even if we had a reduced capacity, we think the impact will certainly still be there. And then there's one other thing I was made aware of, is I want to make it clear that, in working with Cobb PD, that the events like play ball, and if the draft takes place at the Performing Arts Center, that, you know, MLB is going to be responsible for the costs associated with that, including any overtime costs for Cobb PD or security. Mm-hmm. So that is an expense that is on them, not on the county. So we'll continue to work with Chief Cox and JD to make sure that that happens.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Glad you asked.
Yeah.
Glad you asked.
Are there any additional questions, Commissioner Burrell? I'm sorry. Commissioner Richardson, go ahead, then we'll go to Commissioner Burrell.
I was just going to say thank you, and thank you for that update as well. And just for purposes of, you know, it being a public forum, to kind of share some of the intentions around taking precautionary methods for the pandemic.
Yes, so I think we've done a really good job since last April of respecting and abiding by all the protocols put in place from the state and the federal government. And we've been able to operate in a very safe environment there with, obviously, you know, the mask wearing. I believe we're going to see that no matter what happens going forward with restrictions. I think people are getting used to certainly masks. So we're going to start the season wearing masks and social distancing. And so again, we're going to keep abiding by what's being directed and dictated to us, and that's what's going to guide us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Burrell?
Yes, thank you, Mike. It's good to see you today. And again, thank you for all your partnerships and community events that y'all have sponsored. A couple that are near and dear to my heart that weren't mentioned are the 3 fields, Chipper Jones fields, that we have in Cobb County Parks in 3 of our districts. So the Little League teams are very appreciative of the work that was done on that. And then we have a new canine named Brave that the Braves supported and contributed to. So, you know, the dogs are my favorite, so.
You bet. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And we look forward to a huge success for the whole season, but and the All-Star game in July.
Thank you.
And a World Series.
Well, you're right, I didn't mention those. We plan on doing some field renovations, obviously, into the future as well. And we'll announce in short order here some of the legacy of the All-Star game and the impact that it's going to have on Cobb, because it'll be a really great legacy of some programs that will go way beyond just this summer. And we're working with Cobb Parks and Rec on identifying a couple opportunities there. So.
Thank you. We appreciate your update and you giving us a prelude of what's to come over the summer with the MLB game. We are certainly looking forward to it and helping to create some energy that has been overdue with respect to the pandemic. It'll be nice to have that as a pastime and a way for people to get out and enjoy getting out and enjoying Cobb County again.